being in front of camera is a skill that I think marketers need today.
Hey, it's Danielle from Exit 5 here, and in today's episode, I'm talking with Connor Lewis, the founder of Studio Lewis and a total expert when it comes to B2B video. We talked about a ton, from why high production value doesn't actually matter that much, to how marketers can get started with video without hiring a team or spending a fortune.
I'm a high production agency, and I'm here to tell you that it really doesn't matter that much, especially on LinkedIn.
He shared super tactical advice for B2B marketers, whether you're trying to repurpose blog content, promote your next live event, or figure out how to make videos that don't just look good, but people actually watch. If video is on your plate this year, or you just want to make better use of the content you're already creating, you're going to get a ton out of this one.
1, 2, 3, 4. Exit.
All right, and we're live. Very exciting. I'm so excited to have you here today, Connor. So Connor Lewis is the founder of Studio Lewis. Yeah, that's yours. Yeah, awesome.
That's me.
I mean, it has your name in it, right?
Sure.
An absolute expert in video for B2B, which is a really cool niche. I thought we would have him on today to talk like all things B2B video, because that is such a hot topic. We see it in the community all the time at Exit 5. We get questions about it. We see people like looking to hire, especially as I think an important trend now is everyone's going to events and smaller events. And how do you even address that and getting content? And so, yeah, I wanted to have you on today to chat about all things video. So yeah, Connor, tell us about yourself. Give us the lore, as I like to say.
The lore. Well, thanks for having me. This is already so fun. My name's Connor. I am the founder of Studio Lewis, but I didn't start as an agency owner. I started in-house, and I worked at an HR software place that had about 70 employees. Worked there for 5 years up until we had like 250-ish employees. Scaled from 10 million ARR to 100 million ARR. That was not all me. I'm not taking credit for that. That was just like the trajectory that I was on.
Quite a ride, I imagine.
Oh, yeah. We hosted huge events. We built a category. We built a small video team in-house. That was crazy. And this was all like in the span of like 2019 to 2022, 2023.
Oh, nice. You had like the COVID era disruption too. So like,
yeah, pre-COVID,
pivot,
a little bit post-COVID. It was wild. And the strategy changed a lot to fit where people were at that point. So I saw a lot of different iterations of video. We tried so much different video too. We tried ads, we tried social, we tried YouTube, we tried events, like everything. So it taught me a lot about my point of view on video.
Yeah. So you had extensive experience in-house, and you kind of, we chatted a little bit before we started hitting record. And how did you approach even learning? Like, were you hired for video? Did you find yourself like in this niche?
I was hired for video, but it was like a risky hire at the time. It was 2018 and video wasn't hot then. We just had a pretty forward-thinking director of marketing who hired me as like a video intern. This was baby Connor. And my main role was making sure that our videos looked good and like they were all talking head, Danielle. Like they were all just straight to camera, educational, super straightforward. Yeah. And then when it got more creative, like I was out of my comfort zone then. I had to learn animation. I had to learn how to put together a compelling script, which were all skills I didn't realize I was lacking until you get thrown into the job.
Yeah. And so and you're like, wait, I'm kind of a producer instead of a marketer, but also both.
You become like, you go from this videographer role to, you're right, a producer role. And then eventually you have to level up to like some kind of strategist. Like, what videos should we make, Connor? Were like the questions I started getting asked. And then I was like, oh, shoot, I don't know. I should probably read up on this or test some stuff or come up with some theories. So I started out in that world and learned so much from it.
Yeah. And now you specialize in helping B2B companies specifically with video ads, or do you do other types of video?
I did other types of videos for 2 years, but I'm in the Fletch School of Marketing now, where sticking with one niche and one use case is best. I ended up doubling down on ads just because that feels like the medium I know best at this point. I don't think that's always the best starting point for companies when it comes to video. But yeah, I have done it all, and now I'm in the middle of a transition when it.
No, that makes sense, and that is like good to niche down. And I think we see that across a lot of the people in our network that have started out more broadly, like I do B2B video, or like Tess Wilbur was like,
Super
I
odd.
do all these things. Nope, I do landing pages.
You're right.
No,
Yeah.
that's cool. So I want to talk about, well, obviously, if you've been on LinkedIn, like, or pretty much any platform, you know that like video is here. It's not going away. We did the pivot to video.
Yeah, we did.
Probably a little PTSD from that phrase. But I feel like it's getting put on a lot of marketers' plates. That's like, hey, we should do a video or we should do a podcast and then use that video in some way. So, what are you seeing across B2B video with your clients and just like in our little world? I'd love to know what you're seeing in 2025 and what you saw last year and what you think we're going to see going forward.
Yeah. So I'll talk specifically about LinkedIn video because you brought that up. And it's a hot space right now. It was because in 2024 we had those explosion of impressions that people kept boasting about that I'm sure you saw. And there were real impressions, even though the engagement looked low. Like they were trying to push video really hard. And so it brought a lot of video creators to the platform. And I think now what we're seeing in 2025 is like this, that we're settling into what kinds of videos we like as a community, as a larger platform, because I think that's still to be determined. But the three things, at least that I've seen with clients that work the best on social video specifically, and have worked for me for my own business, is number one is building in public. I think there are a lot of creators you could point to who you probably know how their business is doing and what they're doing. Vin Matano comes to mind from Creator Buzz as an example. Building in public is really hot right now. It's not always the easiest thing to do, especially for businesses, but it does work really well. The second one is, I call it edutainment. It's basically a mix of education, but how do we make it fun?
Yeah.
How do we
Yeah.
bring us? We're on Zoom screens all day, or a lot of us are in SaaS at least. And so how do we bring it out of the virtual kind of we're at our desks with microphones world and make it a little more interesting? That's what I've tried to be. I've been going outside, for instance, and just the change of setting alone has been like a pattern breaker. And
Yeah.
a good hook will kind of bring people in. So that's edutainment. And then the third thing that I think is working really well is collaborations. I'm looking at like Devin Reed's Between the Lines. I'm looking at Event Shark is doing a lot of different collaborations. ClickUp is collaborating with even creators who are from Instagram. You're sharing other audiences when you do that. So you naturally get more reach and you get access to people you otherwise wouldn't have had access to. So those are the three things that I think are working on social video. That said, you don't have to do video to blow up on LinkedIn. Like there are text creators and carousel creators who are doing just as well.
Yeah. I did like one video and it did really well, but I don't know. I think I'm more of a text creator than a video creator, but maybe the podcast will change it.
Yeah, this is your coming into yourself
Yeah.
moment.
No, something you said really interesting a little earlier in the conversation was around video ads and like you don't think that companies should always start there. Tell me more about that. If not ads, where should they start and when is the point where you start actually bringing video into your ads mix?
Yeah, good question. I think a lot of people are premature with video ads because you have to have a good understanding of what kind of messaging works before you invest in that kind of creative, in my opinion. There's a really good way to get started, which is just doing virtual production ads. And by that, I mean like animation ads or text on screen ads, stuff that doesn't include like, someone sitting in a studio with really nice professional lighting or, actors and locations and stuff like that. I feel like you should move into that realm once you've figured out messaging and once you have a bigger budget. But like the virtual production is kind of a good place to start. But even before ads, like we didn't really have a huge ad budget when I first started out. And so what we did, we had an SEO based strategy. And so a lot of our videos, like a lot of my first videos in-house that were actually really successful, were just taking our best performing blog posts and turning them into ads. Or sorry, not ads, turning them into how-to videos specifically.
Interesting.
And the process for that I can share if that's interesting was like,
Definitely share that. So how do you do that? So say I have this like awesome blog post. How do I then get it into a video that people actually want to watch?
yeah, good question. For us, my process was we knew that we wanted to repurpose them for YouTube too. So I would use this tool called TubeBuddy, and TubeBuddy would tell me which. It's basically an SEO ranking tool for YouTube. And so I'd try a bunch of different iterations of the title of the blog post and the content of the blog post, making it into a video title, and then work towards the video from there. So for instance, we were an HR tech company. So we had the top 10 ways to engage your employees was a huge blog post for us. And at the time that we were making the videos, we were having a huge disengagement crisis called quiet quitting. And so
Yeah, yeah.
one thing that was like really trending on YouTube at the time that there was a huge gap in this space for is like, why are people quiet quitting? Here are the top 10 ways. And so when I had that title and I saw that it ranked well, we backed into that title for the YouTube video and got around 6,000 views in about 6 months, which is pretty good for B2B.
No, that's great for
and
B2B.
and when we just stapled that to the blog post, it gave it a huge refresh. We were able to say, last written the current date that we posted the video, which brought our ranking up. It also allowed it to show up in more search queries. So when people were looking this on Google, they could go over to the video tab and find us that way. We were even getting in the top ribbon of Google before Google AI was there. And so, that was just a huge way to like double down on something that was already working for us. And for most companies, to answer like your original question, which is how should people even think about getting started with video, I would just say double down on what's working. Video fits into blog posts, it fits into event marketing, it fits into ad campaigns, just like I was talking about. Like if you are doing paid, then good, use video and paid. If you're not doing paid, don't change strategies just to do the hot new video,
Yeah, I like what you said about video for events. I think one of the things that it's like kind of a low-hanging video fruit that I've done is like, so say we have a virtual event coming up in a couple of weeks, and one of the things I want to do, pin in that if I find the time, is you get like your key speakers just to record like 10 to 15 seconds of them like being excited about their session and what they're going to talk about, and like releasing that, getting people engaged, I feel like is a really good way to incorporate it for events.
Totally agree. We did that in-house too. We ran an event called Optima, which was like our big conference, and we were nervous about getting people to actually show up for it. And we did one virtually too, and we were extra nervous about that one because virtual events, at least we in-house had this stigma that like no one wants to go to them. So how do we get people hyped? But we did have big speakers. So yeah, I would say that like getting your speakers just to do a quick little promo for you, 15, 20 seconds. And the more human it is, the better. Like if they're stiff and being like, in my session, we're going to talk about, no, like maybe even put the producer who's asking the question in there, get a little laughter, like a quick summary of what they're going to talk about. And like mostly they're going to be there to like be with that person and ask them questions. So bring that up too. Yeah, I really like using speaker promos. Another thing that we did was for webinars, which is similar to a virtual event. We would actually, to drive people to the webinar recording, which is a lead magnet for us at the time, we would take the Q&A section, not the actual content of the webinar, but the Q&A section. We'd repurpose the top questions into shorts, basically, for social and for our newsletter. And so people would just click in, they'd see the number one question asked at the newsletter and what people seem to be responding to the most in chat. And that was a bigger lead magnet than when we just recapped the newsletter or like recap the webinar or pulled a clip from the webinar, because it was what our users were curious about. It's not what our predetermined agenda was. And so that was a huge unlock for us where it's like, oh, people really care about the Q&A for virtual events. Let's just keep boosting the Q&A. And that created a really nice cycle for us.
Yeah, that's super smart. I'm even thinking of like our own webinars. Don't call them webinar; they're live sessions.
Sorry, live session.
That's like our little in thing, even though we call them internally webinars. But I digress.
I
We
like
always
my
do a
live
Q&A.
session a lot more.
I do too. It's like a webinar makes me think of, I'm just going to like an online training that I have to check off a box. It brings me back to my corporate days where I'm just like, when I was in finance and it was like, here's basically how to insider trade, but don't do it. And it's like all these like actors in horrible suits.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, live session sounds like, oh, you're just hanging out with a bunch of musicians. Like we're jamming. There's art happening here.
Yeah, we kind of describe it as like a live like podcast recording almost,
cool.
where we like bring in experts. Maybe it's on a teaching subject, maybe it's more panel style, but we always like love doing the Q&A section, and we always kind of like rush through whatever the other stuff is to get to the Q&A, because I mean, we have built a really engaged audience, and it's a like self-feeding cycle too, right? It's like people show up, they know they're going to get their questions answered. It's really fun. People are adding their own stuff in there, but I think we can really even lean into that at Exit 5 with our recordings, because we do put them on the podcast. And then we have the video, but I like that, like narrowing in on that, like specifically the Q&A section as a short of like, hey, here's the top 3 questions. Let's like use that for video.
Yes. And it makes such a good title too. I think what's underrated in social video, especially, is the actual text on screen that is in the first 5 seconds. Like, is so important because it just contextualizes what they're about to watch. And for the Q&A, you just put the question on screen. Like, and if people have that question, they'll watch. If they don't, then the content's probably not for them anyway. So yeah, it makes itself, and it creates this little feedback loop that's just beautiful.
I love it. So that's actually a good question. So you have the text on the like the actual video, right? Is like you start. What are I think like maybe like 3 to 5 elements of B2B video you should like really focus on getting right? Like you said like the YouTube title, having those first like 5 seconds question on screen. I think we over index a lot of on like, oh, the production has to be perfect and I have to get this like awesome camera and like the fancy microphone and make sure like the setup's perfect. But does that actually matter? Or yeah.
I'm a high production agency, and I'm here to tell you that it really doesn't matter that much, especially on LinkedIn. The things that I obsess over are the first 5 seconds. I spend as much time in the first 5 seconds as I do in the next 5 minutes, if you will, because the attention is just so scarce these days that, like, if you're not hooking them immediately, then it's tough. And I can give you several tips on hooks. I'm sure everyone on LinkedIn can give you several tips on hooks. My just like, do if you're doing a gut check on your hook, just like, does this succinctly tell people what the video is about, and do I probe on some kind of pain in the first few seconds? If you can do both of those, then you're usually pretty good. How I posts work better than how to posts, so always speak from your own experience.
Ooh, that's interesting. I think I over index towards how to instead of how I. Not in my video, just like in writing anyways.
Yeah, well, it's tempting because you want to seem like an expert, but honestly, the posts that I've done where I'm speaking from my own experience, like, do 3 times better than the one where I'm trying to grandstand. Even though it doesn't feel like I'm trying to grandstand, whenever I say how to, I look back on it, I'm like, oh wow, I really look like a know-it-all there, don't I?
Yeah.
So the hook is
Any
one.
more tips on hooks? Because I feel like that's like kind of applicable across formats too, but like video is really important.
Yeah. For hooks, one of the things I'm trying to remember it right now. I follow this person. His name, he's been blowing up on LinkedIn a little bit. His name is Lewis Butterfield. Really cool dude. He has this hook format called the reverse Rambo, which is really funny.
I love it.
And I couldn't forget it, and it's worked for me. So I feel like I'll share it here now. You basically say like a very common belief in your first line. You're like, for instance, everyone says that cold emailing is dead. I'm so sorry I used that example, but I just
No,
saw
it's
it
okay.
today before this.
Yeah. It's all
But
over LinkedIn.
that's a classic, like, just say a common belief, and then say the word but, and say your point of view on that belief. And then back it up with some kind of stat, or back it up with some kind of personal experience. And then their third line is, and here's how you do it. It's so simple. Like,
Yeah.
common belief, destroying that common belief, and then here's how you do it. Works really well. That's one of many hook formats. Another one is just like saying a bold statement, like, one of my posts that did really well was a building in public post. I just like declared that I almost went bankrupt at the beginning of 2024.
Yep.
And like, just sharing something so stark about yourself can catch people off guard and want to read more. So like, what are you feeling bold enough to share about your business, about how you're thinking about marketing? If you're a head of marketing, you can share about like some of the struggles you're running into with marketing and how you overcame them. So it's a story about empowerment that also boosts your personal brand, that also showcases like your software. So yeah, I mean, I could wax philosophical about hooks forever. There's no perfect hook format. There's just a lot of ones that do work pretty well.
Yeah. And I think, like you said, you kind of have to experiment and like play with it a bit and figure out what works for you and feels good and you want to like keep owning it on. That's funny you said the like or like the struggles you're having. I posted maybe like 2 weeks ago, last week, I just had a subject line that just like totally flopped. And I
How'd that
thought it was
do?
good. do really well. The post did awesome because everyone was like, "Oh, like I love this," like, and, like, everyone was, like, trying to, like, help me in the comments, and, like, they're like, "What was the subject
Oh,
line?" and, like, "How can we fix it?" and it was really funny. I mean, not funny, it was really cool because, like, I also think, like, marketers are just inherently, like, helpful
yeah, they
people
want to help.
too.
Well,
So
and you know what I love about that little anecdote that you shared is like LinkedIn is full of bravado. It's full of people saying I did it right all the time. I always do it right. And so for someone to be like, I actually struggled with this thing, and here's how it made me reflect on my own thinking. Like that's stands out just on its own, by its ethos. You know, like that is something that's interesting. Like you're being honest with us.
well, it goes back to something you said earlier too, which I think is interesting around, like, pattern interruption. Like, just filming videos outside instead of, like, talking head at your desk with, like, perfectly styled background and, like, having someone
Manicured.
who works in yeah, exactly. I put on makeup today, so never do that. Um, but like even like going outside, like Dave posts videos from outside all the time because normally when you think like B2B video, you're like, okay, like I'm at a perfect office or I'm like sitting at my desk, but it's like, oh, hey, this person's outside. Like, maybe I should watch it because my brain is activated because it's different. I'm not conditioned to just like ignore it because I've seen it 10,000 times on LinkedIn.
You're so right. When it comes to pattern interrupt, the first person that comes to mind is Liam Maroney from Storybook Marketing. For me, he literally just has 3 to 4 minute videos where he's sitting outside. There's no editing, and he's talking about a concept. And sometimes it's even like snowing on his head, and you're like, "How are you cold, man?" But also, you're making really good points right now. I Yeah, I think it's very tempting to copy what seems to be working for other people, but by doing that, you're automatically blending in. So, like, how can you make something that's unique and your own? There's another person. I'm sorry, I'm just like name dropping and referencing.
No, go for it.
Renee Shaw from Too Long Didn't View, TLDV. It's like a recording software. She's awesome in that she has this like quirky personality and she brings you around her town as she's talking about something that she's doing. It's just like, if it feels like you're having fun with it, if it feels authentic to you, then it's going to do better because people can inherently feel that in the video. If you're stiff and in front of the camera and you're doing something that doesn't feel like you, they feel that
Yeah.
too, and they tune off, you know?
Yeah. And even thinking about the video that I ended up doing, and I was like excited about it because what I did was I just like recorded a bunch of little clips from like prepping for Drive last year of like us like unboxing all the t-shirts and making all the boxes and like, what I was doing in like our hotel room, like trying to get the newsletter off. And that did really well because it felt also like authentic to me more so than me like sitting down and being like, this is how you do content marketing. I am the expert.
Yeah, because people get to see the process. There's an obsession with process lately, and I think it's really good because it leads to a lot more transparency in business.
And
It
people
made me
like
think
the
of.
like, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, I was just going to share from my in-house days. We had a video of our CEO in a suit talking to the camera and like basically declaring the different types of updates that we did to the software this month. And then we had like a really laid back version of that too that we tested where he wasn't in a suit. He was just like in a normal sweater. He was kind of sitting down with one of the engineers and talking through it. And like we referenced a whiteboard, and people liked the conversational one like 3 or 4 times more views and engagement. Like, it's so tempting in B2B to just be on a high horse all the time, but really that's what's killing the videos, is being on a high horse.
Yeah. And okay, so that actually leads into something else I want to talk about. And we touched on this a little bit before we hit record, but so like because video is so hot right now, a lot of marketing teams are probably getting it either put on their plates or they want to try experimenting with it. And like we were talking about, like you had a super visionary head of marketing who was like, okay, we're going to go hire like like specific video person. And I've been lucky to have that on my teams too. Like I worked at Profitwell, which like we had a whole like studios team, which was awesome and fun because
Wow.
like our CEO was super bought in. He was like, no, this is the future. This is what we're doing. We did full shows and it was super fun. On like pricing pages and like retention sequences. And it was fun. But that being said, like, how do you how do you go ahead with video? Like you said, if you're, say, I'm like a marketing manager that now needs to do video or wants to try video without having that like dedicated person? We talked about like the best performing blog posts. I think that's an awesome entry point, but what else would you say?
Yeah. My rule of thumb is, especially in like so I'm gonna say this answer assuming that it's basically a solo head of marketing without too many team resources or money or the ability to hire an agency, stuff like that. So you're probably pretty early stage. In those kinds of companies, I really think doubling down on whatever strategy you have, however you're going to market, and seeing what's working. Just try video in that area. You do not have to be a LinkedIn influencer to start on video. Like, honestly, it's one of the hardest videos to do because it's like nerve wracking and it's your public image and all those things. And all of those are going to be blockers to you actually just getting started with video. And so, like, if SEO is your strategy, the blog thing that we talked about, perfect. Like, if you have a product-led growth company, a lot of your marketing efforts are probably going to be focused on upgrades. And so product updates, teaching people, like educational videos do so well in PLG companies with freemium trials, putting those in the products, actually, putting those in nurture sequences. And literally it can be as simple as like putting a camera, like a phone on a tripod and having like PowerPoint slides of the, product updates and just being really casual with it can go a really long way. There's this YouTube company that's trying to be the next search engine called, I think I'm going to mess up their name, but it's something like the browser company. And all their videos are entirely just the founder hopping in front of a computer and being like, here's what we worked on this week. I'm really stressed about this. And also I think like, here's how we can do it a little differently and the features that I have in mind. And here's my dream. And here's how you could get started today. And it's very product led. It's very like focused on their user base. Like no one really watches it unless they have a free account. So for a PLG company, educational videos are a great way to start. If you do have a more social led strategy, then tiptoe around finding your voice on camera. How are you going to tell an agency or even a video hire how you want your videos to look if you haven't, experimented it with it yourself as a head of marketing, even a little bit? I'm also of the opinion that like being in front of camera is a skill that I think marketers need today. And so you should get on that. If it's something that like feels, if you tense up when you think about getting in front of the camera, like you should probably flex that muscle. You can record videos and never show them, but like just putting yourself in front of the camera is the first step.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And like just getting, like, it's like with anything, you need like practice, right? And podcast appearances, great place to start. Like you don't even have to start your own, just go on someone else's.
I didn't even bring up podcasts. So smart. I think the people saying podcasts are dead, I think are missing the point of podcasts. They build a deep audience, not like a wide one, which is amazing from like a benefit standpoint. But most importantly, they build the skill of just being able to talk in front of the camera and network. Like I know so many heads of marketing who have a podcast that doesn't have a ton of viewers, but is an amazing channel for them to connect with the people that they want to connect to, just inviting them to a podcast and starting that connection. And then also their speaking skills get better. I'm still working on my speaking skills and I'm showing up to podcasts
Same.
like this,
Same. This is officially the third episode I'm hosting. So
You're killing it.
No, and I think I was talking to someone a while ago and I'm going to forget who it was, but we were even talking about if like even a podcast seems like too much, because there is this feeling of like permanence with that. It's like, oh, we have a podcast now. It's like, do like a 4-video series on something and just interview someone. Like if I wanted to do a series on like B2B video and get like you and like Dang from Event Shark or something like that. And it's like, okay, we're just doing like a mini series. I love a limited series. They do well.
Yeah, they do well on Netflix. So they'll probably do well in B2B world, I agree. That's a great idea. 100%.
I think it's like an easy, and it's also like an easy, like not easy, but a good contained experiment. That's not like, hey, we have a podcast now. It's so permanent, blah, blah, blah. It's like this onerous thing that you have to, constantly keep doing. But it's like, hey, like we did that and it really worked. So like, or like, hey, like maybe we missed the mark on that. Let's try something different.
I love that because it's so experimental. And I think that's how you need to be in the beginning. Like you can't go all in on something before you know what actually works for video for your brand. And a lot of video is just product messaging. Like you're figuring out your product messaging and your positioning and stuff like that. And also what personality works well with your audience. So like, yeah, I love limited series because it sounds like you're testing a concept and we'll do 4 episodes. We'll see which episode did best. We'll see overall how it compared to our other marketing materials, if this is worth the investment, and then we'll pivot and try something new. And like, I think in the first year of doing video, that's all I would do is like experiment 1, experiment 2. Oh, okay, this worked. Let's double down on experiment 2. That kind of thing.
Yeah. I also like earlier you said something around, and I don't remember the phrase you used, but basically like non-production video. Is that what it is? Where it's basically like text on screen or something like that.
Yeah,
Like
like
that's,
animation, virtual
yeah.
production.
Or
It's
like
all
if you're
cheaper
just,
to make.
yeah. And like animation, I feel like I'm like, oh, that sounds so scary. I need to go like learn After Effects or something. But like, and please forgive me if this is offensive, but like you can do that in Canva.
You can, yeah, it's not
Yeah.
offensive. It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. It's like those kinds of videos too. The animation style videos are closer to copywriting than closer to like actual production. And that is like, I saw a post today that was like the #1 hire should be a product marketer, and I couldn't agree more because like a video is very much related to copywriting. And if you don't know what copy works on like a landing page or a web page for your ICP, it's going to be really hard to build scripts that resonate too, because the amount of time you have is very similar. The length of sentences should be very similar to copywriting. It should be snappy, it should be punchy, and so yeah, to your point.
Yeah, no, I love that. Well, this was super fun. Any kind of closing thoughts on video? Anything you want to touch on?
Oh man. Don't be scared, just get started. There's your inspirational call.
But like so much of that is true in marketing is
Yeah, it's not video specific. You're right.
no. It's like
It's
get out of the
probably
perfection bubble that everything has to be like polished and perfect, and just like try the minimum viable version.
yeah. Also, my first videos were terrible. And like and then I did video for 6 years, and then my first social videos were terrible. Like it's just you're only going to get better. And so you got to work that muscle, and like we're all frumping around trying to figure out what works with video. No one has a golden bullet. You just have to test and learn each time and get better each time. It's just like any other marketing.
Exactly. Well, this was super fun. I'm so glad we finally got you on the podcast today. And also, you made really cool videos from Drive, so we'll have to share those
Yeah.
too. I loved those, and I might even get that little camera that you had. I loved it. But can find you on LinkedIn, and also check out Studio Lewis.
Yeah, hit me up for any questions. You don't have to be into ads to ask me a video question. I'll give you my unbiased opinion, even if I'm not in that realm.
And I can verify that because Connor is like genuinely one of the most helpful people in B2B. So take him up on that offer. He's in the Exit 5 community too, but also on LinkedIn.
Oh yeah, 100%. I check Exit 5 every day. So if I see a video question, I'll try to hop in.
I'm telling Dave that right now in Slack. He's going to be so excited.
Really? Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I love that community.